Sawi Omnes, and welcome back to the channel. Today's video is going to be a breakdown of the hero improvements that will be featured in the testing grounds on the 10th of December running up to the 17th of December. For those of you who don't know, the testing grounds is a feature in For Honor that occurs from time to time. Basically, if the developers are proposing any changes, we get to play them in a separate server from the live game, and we get to give our feedback to them via survey of whether or not we like these changes, whether we don't like these changes, etc. So, the changes this time is going to be hero improvements of 4 heroes, those heroes being Shugoki, Nobushi, Warden and Peacekeeper. So what I want to do in this video is break down what the changes are. I'm going to show you footage from the developers live stream. I'm going to show you their slides, and I'm going to try and break down as best I can, give my insight into whether or not these changes are good, these changes are bad, but these are my initial impressions. Until we get our hands on the testing grounds, I'm not going to know for certain how good or bad they are, but I want to give my initial impressions now and see if that opinion swings once the testing ground phase is over. I've got quite a bit to say, and I'm going to try and make this video as brief as possible, so please bear with me. And I am off the cuff, there is no script for this. I'm doing this completely free form, I guess you could say. So I do apologise if the audio quality is a bit shaky. You can hear my chair squeaking in the background or other distractions, so I do apologise about that. But we're going to start off with Nobushi, followed by Shugoki, Warden, and finally Peacekeeper. As a Peacekeeper main, I'm very interested to talk about these changes, but let's start off with Nobushi and see how she's been improved. Nobushi is receiving changes to hidden stance, heavy finishers, heavy attacks that come from hidden stance, her zone attack, Cobra Strike, and Sidewinder. So if you don't know, Cobra Strike is her dodge light attack. It's also the attack that you get confirmed after a kick, and Sidewinder is her dodge heavy attack. Hidden stance stamina cost is now 12 instead of 24, so that's half. So basically, in the live game, I prepared my own clip. You can see that Nobushi's hidden stance on activation costs 24 stamina to do. So when Nobushi's in hidden stance, she can go for double lights, she can go for a kick, or she can go for a heavy. Now, if your opponent is expecting the kick, and they're going to dodge preemptively, if Nobushi wants to catch that, she's got to go into hidden stance, do a heavy attack, feint that heavy attack, do a guard break, and then she gets a heavy attack. So that's a total stamina cost of 73. I will break it down for you. So that's 24 stamina for hidden stance, 12 stamina for the heavy, an additional 10 stamina to feint the heavy, 15 stamina for the guard break, and another 12 on top of that to get the heavy. So for Nobushi to get damage in off of that one action, off of that one attempted mix-up, whatever you want to call it, that's 73 stamina. That is a massive amount of stamina for Nobushi. That's over half her bar. So reducing stamina cost for hidden stance, that's a very good start, and it's going to lead into the next change of why this is really good. And that change is that Nobushi's heavy finishers and her heavy attacks that come from hidden stance will have the undodgeable property. So this is footage from the Warriors Den livestream. Apologies to the For Honor team for muting you guys and zooming you out the footage, but we kind of just want to get a clear view of what's going on here. So Nobushi's heavy finishers have the undodgeable property. This is also true from hidden stance heavies, but we don't have footage of this. Basically, this is a really, really impressive buff for Nobushi. So earlier when I was telling you about trying to catch people who might be anticipating the kick, you got to spend 73 stamina in the live game. Well, now that stamina cost has gone down from 73 down to 24. Really, really strong for Nobushi. She's not going to be out of stamina, she's not going to have to spend half her bar to try and get damage in, and she's got a true mix-up now between kick and undodgeable. So really good work there. Let's have a look at the next change. Zone attack has received some changes, so you never really see the second hit of Nobushi's zone come out in play. It's pretty underwhelming, but now you can soft feint Nobushi's zone, the second hit, into a kick, into heavy finisher, which remember is undodgeable, so that creates a little mix up there, and into a dodge if you want to, sort of create space from your opponent or get away from other opponents trying to close in on you. So Nobushi's zone attack has increased in viability massively with these changes. She can now use it more reliably and more offensively, which is really good for her, and the stamina costs have been adjusted as well. In the live game, Nobushi's zone attack costs 40 stamina to do, whether you use the second swing or not, so the first swing will always cost 40 stamina. Now, in the testing grounds, it'll be costing 20 stamina for that first swing and 20 for the second swing, which is a quality of life improvement for Nobushi, and you can feint to 10 stamina. So really, really good changes for Nobushi. Her zone attack is receiving massive buffs, and it's making her into a very, very good character again. Next up, Cobra Strike can now chain into heavy finisher. Okay, so basically the problem with the live game right now is that if Nobushi lands a Cobra Strike, you're pretty much free to roll away from her. so chaining into an undodgeable heavy finisher is going to fix that issue. For Sidewinder, it can also chain into heavy finisher, and given that you can actually kick after a Sidewinder, this is actually another really good way of trapping your opponent. You have to respect what Nobushi is going to be doing to you now, because is she going to kick after a Sidewinder? Is she going to go for an undodgeable heavy? You've got to make a read and react accordingly. The other change that's happening with Sidewinder is that your options that you can have after it, so dodge, Viper's retreat, hidden stance, kick, and heavy finisher, now start at 400 milliseconds as opposed to 500 milliseconds, but you can delay an additional 100 milliseconds up to that 500 milliseconds if you want to. So this is going to help Nobushi out in the mid lane. Sidewinder is going to be pretty good at clearing minions. The undodgeable property is really going to help with that, I think, as well. And on top of that, you can screw with your opponent's timings a little bit. So really good changes for Nobushi. Very happy with what they're doing with her. The only questionable thing for me is that the kick could be a little faster, in my opinion. Shave 33, 66 milliseconds off that thing, and I think you've got a really, truly unreactable mix-up. But otherwise, Nobushi's looking really, really good. On to Shugoki. Shugoki is receiving changes to light attacks, Demon's Embrace, which is the hug for those who don't know the name. Shugoki's also getting a new forward dodge attack and a new side dodge bash attack. So let's break it down and start with the light attacks. First things first, light attacks no longer have uninterruptible stance or armor. Really, really good change, and it's about damn time. Shugoki now will respect frame advantage rules, which is a really welcome change, and to be honest, light attacks on Shugoki have been a pain in the arse for pretty much everybody, regardless of how many options your character has. It's really, really obnoxious for Shugoki to just simply trade out what you're doing and take back his turn with a light attack, so this is a very welcome change. Good job, development team. Next up, Demon's Embrace. So Demon's Embrace no longer has uninterruptible stance or hyper armor, but I'll get to that in a moment. I want to talk about the recovery is now gone from 2000 milliseconds to 1500 milliseconds, and you can gain the ability to block at 1200 milliseconds. Shugoki has an infamously bad recovery on his whiffed Demon's Embrace, and I'm going to show you some clips of just how bad it is. Here with Warden, you can see that I'm able to dodge into a fully charged shoulder bash and get a top heavy. And in this next clip, you can see with Kensei out of stamina, Kensei has a very slow top heavy attack. I'm able to back dodge, which has more recovery than a side dodge, and still get a top heavy attack in the live game without Shugoki being able to block. And I did set him to block and dodge on both of these clips. So really, really good changes to have that recovery adjusted. It's not... I mean, I don't know how ideal it is. We'll have to wait until we get into the testing grounds. It's better than 2 whole seconds, though. It's definitely better than 2 whole seconds, so it is a welcome addition. What is not a welcome addition, though, is the removal of uninterruptible stance hyper armor on Demon's Embrace. So, basically, if you're playing Shugoki's game, now in the live game you can roll away from the mix-up, okay? We know this. So, if you're playing Shugoki's game, and you try to option select his heavies, alright? Demon's Embrace is going to catch you. It's a good mix-up if you're playing Shugoki's game. Okay? And now JC said in the live stream that this is the single attack that lands the most, 80%. Now I don't think that the devs have taken into consideration that this attack actually lands guaranteed on out of stamina punishers, wall splats, and your teammates can set it up for you. But they're basically saying it's a very frustrating move for players to deal with, so they're removing the hyper armor from it. Now, the thing is that you can roll away from the mix-up. Now, the Testing Grounds has fixed this, we'll get to that in a moment. So, because the Testing Grounds has fixed the issue of rolling away from it, you're now forced to face the mix-up. But now they've removed armor, the mix-up won't work. If you're a Shugoki player, if you like playing Shugoki, you are gonna have to learn how to bait out these option selects. These option select zone attacks are gonna come all the time, and there's nothing you can do about it. You better learn to block them, parry them, dodge them, because they're gonna come at you, because that hug has gone from a bad move to an outright useless move now. So, don't know what the developers were thinking. This is a really, really bad change. Hyper Armor needs to stay on this move. Now that Shugoki has a roll catch, we'll get to that in a second, this is a horrible change. Terrible change. It's made Shugoki completely... Not completely, but it's made Shugoki much worse. So, the Hyper Armor needs to stay. Okay, on to that roll catcher I talked about. Forward dodge heavy attack is a new dodge attack Shugoki has access to. It uses the same animation as Shugoki's sprint attack, always comes from top guard. I don't think it can be feinted, it doesn't look like it can be. So it's very similar to Valiant Breakthrough. And it travels some really good distance. The developers did say it's supposed to execute, but there's a known bug in the testing grounds where it doesn't execute at the moment. So they're going to aim to fix that should it go into the live game. And it also acts as a chain starter, allowing you to go into your heavy finisher as seen in the clip above. So this is really good for Shugoki. Obviously the charge heavy Demon's Embrace mix-up could always be nullified by rolls. Now you have to take into consideration Shugoki can chase you down, and he can chase you down quite well. So this is a very good addition to Shugoki's kit, but it only really works if the hug has armor. So there's that. Finally for Shugoki we have side dodge into headbutt. So Shugoki's biggest weakness is that he can't counter bash offense, so can't do anything about toe stab, Valkyrie spear sweep, Black Prior's bashes, Conqueror's bashes. He can't punish them in time. He can't punish them at all. So now what's going to happen is if they whiff a bash, you manage to dodge, headbutt them. You're not dealing damage, but you are stunning them, draining their stamina, and you've got access to your heavy finisher. So you're turning the advantage. It's now your turn to attack. You're forcing them to deal with your mix-up. So very good change for Shugoki. Shugoki's looking to be a really good character. The only problem really is the removal of hyper armor on Demon's Embrace. It completely nullifies the issues that they've fixed. So the issues they've fixed is bash. He's now got a way to counter bashes. He's now got a way to deal with rolls. But that's now that's been fixed, it's nullified by the fact that Demon's Embrace doesn't have armor. So Shugoki, mainly good changes. The hyper armor removal on Demon's Embrace, absolutely terrible decision. Moving on to Warden. Warden is receiving changes to shoulder bash, heavy attacks, openers and finishers, and zone attack. Shoulder bash, no longer accessible from back dodge, static movement when feinted, no longer has extra movement when fully charged, and can now be accessed after any of Warden's sword attacks. So this is rushing slash, the sprint attack, valiant breakthrough, zone attack, heavy opener, and finishers. So let's break it down. Warden is a very strong duelist in the live game, and the reason for this is back dodge shoulder bash. This is Warden's go-to tool to open up opponents. It's very stall heavy match fighting a Warden, because Warden really wants you to whiff an attack and then punish you with a shoulder bash. And the best way for Warden to do that is to back dodge shoulder bash, because he can completely cancel the longer recovery back dodgers have. So it's a very oppressive defensive tool. I'm very glad to see it go. It's going to make Warden a lot more fun to play and a lot more fun to fight against. And the feint, when Warden fully charges his shoulder bash and he feints it, Warden moves a little bit of a distance. That's going to be standardized to the 0.5 meters for every feint. And that extra movement, that 0.5 meters that's been granted to the feint, is basically to allow feint to guard break to consistently work. So really good changes to the feinting and the back dodge removal to shoulder bash. Really good. So in the above clip, you can see that Warden is demonstrating now he can access shoulder bash from zone attack, access it from valiant breakthrough, access it from rushing slash, which is a sprint attack, and from heavy openers and heavy finishers. So this is really good for Warden. His flow has increased significantly with this, and Warden's no longer a static defensive hero. Warden can now take charge and take the fight to the enemy, which is a very welcome change. I really like what they're doing with Warden. For Warden's heavy attacks, side heavy openers now have flatter trajectories and have increased range. So what this is doing now is basically the flatter trajectory is making it more of a horizontal swing, and the increased range is obviously giving him some forward movement a little bit during that. Now this is really good for Dominion, really good for team fights. Basically Warden's now going to be able to try and clip multiple opponents. It's going to be able to access in team fights a lot more consistently, which is very good, because Warden's a good duelist, but he's very underwhelming when it comes to high level team fights. So this is really good to see. For heavy finishers, they're all now 900 milliseconds. They're all unblockable. They have flatter trajectories, have increased forward movement, and light attacks chain into heavy finishers at 100 milliseconds during the recoveries. Okay, so Warden is going to be truly a Blackstone now, with how much orange is going to be on screen anytime you're playing him. But that aside, these are actually very good changes. Warden, as long as Warden is in a position where he can attack, he is putting you in a situation where you have to make a read. Okay, that is how the game should be. Warden is shaping up to be a very good hero. The top heavy finisher used to be 1000 milliseconds. That's been slowed down to 900. The side heavy finishers used to be 800 milliseconds. They're being sped up to 900. And the extra forward movement is obviously to allow feint to guard break to catch more consistently. And the flatter trajectories is very welcome because you can target, in team fights, you can target somebody who's behind the initial person you want to hit, throw that side heavy finisher, and you can tag that person. You see that a lot with Jang Jun and his heavy finishers. Berserker can do it to a degree, he's got less range, but that's the sort of plays that the developers are, allowing Warden to do now. So yeah, jokes aside about Warden being permanently orange, I hear it's a colour psychologically known to provoke hostility, so maybe that's the reasoning, but either way, Warden's shaping up to be fantastic. Really, really good changes. The only thing I'm concerned about is damage values. That might be something that needs to be looked at after the testing ground phase, because if he's landing those heavies a lot, it might need to bring down the heavy finisher damage, but we'll wait and see. Lastly, for Warden, zone attack changes. The recovery has been cut in half, down from a full second to half a second, so from 1000 milliseconds to 500 milliseconds, and it's got additional forward movement when you hit your zone attack. So again, good change. So the 500 millisecond delay basically is there in team fights again. It allows Warden to try and throw out his zone attack, and he's able to defend himself again pretty quickly. Because the problem is really now that 1000 milliseconds is a long time. A full second's a long time in For Honor. So if you throw out your zone attack and you don't chain, Warden's obviously very vulnerable, especially in team fights. That's why he's not picked in tournaments. So this is going to make his zone attack similar to Warlord's in that regard. Warlord's got a very good recovery on his zone attack. We'll see how the extra movement works out, because the zone attack's obviously not got as good as a hitbox as someone like Warlord's or Kensei's or Changjun's, but again, a really welcome buff. Warden, I think, out of the 4 heroes, is shaping up to be the most complete. But finally, let's move on to Peacekeeper. Okay, my girl PK. So she's getting changes to heavy attacks, dagger cancel, heavy finishers, and zone attack. So let's start off with heavy attacks for Peacekeeper. Okay, so heavy attacks is basically a damage buff. All heavy attacks that Peacekeeper has access to, so heavy openers, heavy finishers, side dodge and forward dodge, are getting a 5 damage raw buff. Okay, so this is very welcome. 5 damage side dodge attacks for Peacekeeper ain't executing nobody. Peacekeeper did need this. I said as much in my suggested rework post and video. But however, the developers have said that they are not changing Peacekeeper's bleed. They're keeping her bleed damage the same. To me, that's a massive red flag. We'll have to see how it goes in the testing grounds, but the fact they haven't addressed PK's triple stab punish for bleed damage or deep gouge, Peacekeeper's going to have very, very high dodge attack damage now when you add the bleed in altogether. So, I mean, I'm happy with the extra damage, don't get me wrong, but I would have liked to have seen deep gouge receive that 5 damage nerf. We'll just have to see how it goes. Dagger Cancel, you can now cancel the recovery with a dodge at 333 milliseconds. This is down from 400 milliseconds, I think, and the recovery time outside of that is otherwise unchanged. So basically, this is a Dominion and Brawl change. This isn't really going to help Peacekeeper in 1v1. If you land a Dagger Cancel on somebody, you can sort of like create distance, dodge away, and this will help protect you in team fights. Maybe you can jump and dodge attack to another person. That is what JC was saying. He also said that they're retaining Peacekeeper at frame disadvantage because of the heavy finisher buffs and the pressure she's going to be able to get from it. When you take into consideration what these heavy finisher buffs are, and you realise that a character like Shaman, who has a Dagger Cancel and retains frame advantage, pretty much has the exact same sort of pressure, this decision makes no sense. I don't understand why Peacekeeper is still retaining frame disadvantage. Either give her frame advantage, or take Shaman's frame advantage away, because it's the same pressure more or less. Heavy finishers are now unblockable when locked onto a bleeding opponent. This is a very strong buff for Peacekeeper, something that she desperately needed. Given that her soft feints are guard break, dagger cancel and dodge, this gives Peacekeeper a lot of pressure if she manages to land a bleed on an opponent. She's still going to have to work for the bleed. She's still going to struggle in matchups like against Conqueror, for example. If Peacekeeper can't land that initial bleed, she's going to struggle to get her pressure still, but once she gets that bleed, it's going to be very good for her. She's going to have to make some solid reads, because once again, Dagger Cancel isn't giving her frame advantage. She still has access to deep gouge as well, so once she gets one of these unblockable heavy finishes, she can deep gouge and reapply the bleed. which is really good because basically Peacekeeper will snowball an opponent. As long as she starts getting them to bleed, she's got good pressure, and this is why her bleed damage needs to come down. So that I will be advocating for that come the survey, but this is very good. I mean, it still doesn't fix the issue that you can't dagger cancel from top heavy. I would have probably liked to have seen her top heavy unblockable, maybe have uninterruptible stance to prevent interrupts and have her side heavy finishes unblockable. But this is very, very, very good for Peacekeeper. I really like this. I just want to see that bleed damage come down a bit. But outside of that, very good. Peacekeeper's still going to have to work for her damage. She's still going to have to work to open the opponent up. But now she's not going to get externally blocked if she can land a bleed. So if a Peacekeeper's on your team in the testing grounds, set her up for a bleed and then let her assist. My favourite changes for Peacekeeper are the zone attack ones. It's now enhanced, and it is a heavy attack, finally! The second hit is unblockable when locked onto a bleeding opponent. It now feints at a normal timing, and you can soft feint into Dagger Cancel at normal timing, soft feint into Guard Break at normal timing, and soft feint into a dodge at normal timing. This is so good! Peacekeeper's zone attack is really, really good now. It's not some cheap bullshit tool like it was when it was a 400 millisecond light attack. It's not a useless zone attack now that it's easily light parried. This is a proper zone attack with proper function. Very, very good. Peacekeeper can bleed at an opponent, pressure with an unblockable zone. That second part if they don't parry the initial hit. And the reason that the feint timing has been standardized because Peacekeeper now feints her zone a bit later. The reason that has occurred is because it's there to prevent unblockable icons from flickering. Because if you bleed an opponent, and how Peacekeeper's zone feints now, if you bleed an opponent and it was unblockable and you did a zone attack, then the unblockable would flicker. And we don't want that. Unblockable signs flickering is what made Shaman a nightmare for so long. So Peacekeeper's zone attack is her best change by far. It is incredible. The other changes are really good, but we just need to bring that bleed down and address that frame advantage discrepancy when it comes to her dagger cancel. I am worried about her damage being too high with the bleed, but Peacekeeper is going to be a very, very fun hero to play. Very, very fun. I think you're going to see a lot more PKs running around, and I am super excited to play her. I will be playing all of the heroes in the testing grounds and doing videos on them, but you can bet your ass that most of my time is going to be spent playing PK. I can't pass it up, it's too good. Before I forget, Peacekeeper has another change that's listed on the website, and that is that her deflect is now performed with a heavy attack instead of a light attack. So the comment there is that it should make deflects easier to land and removes the necessity to press a light attack just in case a deflect was performed. I don't agree with this change. I think the deflect should stay as a light attack. If you're going to change anybody, change Nusha's to a heavy attack. I mean, I know Orochi doesn't really have a choice, but this is a very questionable change. And the reason for that is deflects can be baited and punished, and they should always be a conscious decision on the player. You must always consciously go for a deflect knowing the risks, okay? It's not something that should be made easier for easiest sake. You're reducing the skill gap in a bad way there. It's bad design. Keep it as a light. So these were my initial impressions of the changes for Shugoki, Nobushi, Warden and Peacekeeper. My breakdown, my insight, if you will, how I think the changes are going to affect them. I hope you found the video informative. I hope that you're going into the testing grounds with an open mind. Whether you think the changes are overpowered, underpowered, or something like that, please go into the testing grounds with an open mind. Play as much of the testing grounds as possible, okay? We need all the feedback, make informed decisions, and, you know, talk to me in the comments. You know I answer comments. I always answer comments. Talk to me if you're not sure about any of these changes, if you want any in-depth explanations, you just want to see what you like, what you don't like, please talk to me, let me know. I would love to open up the discussion. So, thank you so much for watching the video. I do appreciate you taking the time to listen to me talk for nearly 25 minutes. I did say I was going to try and make it brief, but this is very important. We're talking about the future of the game here, and I'm very invested in For Honor, and I know you all are too. So let's have the best game we can be, let's give our honest feedback, and really look at these changes from a competitive standpoint. Okay? Thank you all so much for taking the time to watch this video, to listen to me ramble on. I really appreciate it, and thank you for all the support you continue to give me and this channel. Videos will be coming back as soon as I am able to provide them at a regular pace. But until then, thanks again, and I will see you in the next video. Ciao for now.